It was said that she was the shadow of Bismarck, a sleeping beast lurking in the fjords of Norway. Her name struck fear across the North Atlantic. The British called her the Lonely Queen of the North. But among her crew, she was simply Tirpitz, the last titan of a fading empire. In the late 1930s, as Europe stumbled toward another war, Germany began building two colossal ships, sisters born of steel and ambition, Bismarck and Tirpitz. They were the largest battleships ever constructed by Germany, symbols of defiance against the British Empire that had ruled the seas for centuries. While Bismarck would storm into legend within weeks of her first mission, Tirpitz's destiny was different. She would not blaze across the Atlantic. Instead, she would wait. For years, hidden among mountains and mist. A weapon too dangerous to ignore, yet too precious to risk. And when she was launched in April 1939 at Wilhelmshaven, tens of thousands gathered to witness the steel mountain slide into the water. The air trembled with pride and dread, for everyone knew what this ship meant. The name Tirpitz, after the Grand Admiral of the Kaiser's fleet, was chosen to inspire fear, and she did. Even before her first mission, her reputation traveled farther than her guns. By 1942, Tirpitz had been stationed in the icy waters of Norway. From there, she could threaten the Arctic convoys, lifelines carrying vital supplies from Britain and America to the Soviet Union. She didn't need to sail into open battle, her presence alone was enough. Every time British intelligence picked up a whisper of her movement, convoys turned back, fleets redeployed, and thousands of tons of cargo were delayed. Winston Churchill himself called her the Beast, vowing she would be destroyed at any cost. Yet for the men aboard Tirpitz, life was no act of glory. They spent endless months under the pale northern sun, surrounded by snow and silence. The crew worked, waited, repaired. Their enemy not just the Royal Navy, but isolation itself. Inside the steel hull, they painted murals, played accordions, wrote letters home. For many, Tirpitz became less a warship and more a floating fortress, a home they could not leave, yet one that could die at any moment. In March 1942, Tirpitz finally stirred. Operation Sportpalast, her first major sortie. Her mission? Intercept convoy PQ-12 heading for Murmansk. The sea was brutal, a gray wasteland of ice and storm. As Tirpitz advanced through the fog, British reconnaissance planes spotted her, and within hours, Royal Navy ships were converging. Despite her immense power, Tirpitz never found the convoy. The operation ended without a shot fired. But the psychological effect was enormous for both sides. The British now knew they could not rest while Tirpitz remained afloat. What followed was a relentless hunt. The British launched raid after raid, from the sea, the air, and even beneath the waves. In September 1943, midget submarines crept into Cowford in a daring operation known as Source. 6 tiny vessels, each carrying 2 men and explosive charges, slipped beneath the dark water. Only 2 reached their target. One placed charges directly beneath Tirpitz's hull. The explosions ripped through the ship, flooding compartments and knocking out her main guns. Over 100 men were killed, and yet the giant refused to die. For months, German engineers worked tirelessly to repair her, welding and hammering under freezing rain and constant fear of air attack. By spring 1944, Tirpitz was back, scarred, slower, but alive. The Royal Air Force would not give up. In April 1944, 30 Lancaster bombers attacked using massive 12,000-pound tallboy bombs. They struck the surrounding mountains, shaking the earth, but Tirpitz remained standing. Then, in September, they tried again. This time, the bombers came at dawn, low over the fjord, guided by radar and courage. 3 tallboys struck near misses. One hit her bow, twisting steel like paper. She was crippled and could no longer sail. Still, she was moved farther south to Tromsø, where she would become a floating gun platform, a last desperate shield for northern Norway. But the British weren't finished. November 12, 1944. It was a cold, clear morning over Tromsø Sound. The fjord was calm, snow dusted the mountains. Below, Tirpitz lay still, half hidden by camouflage nets. High above, 32 Lancaster bombers from RAF 617 and 9 squadrons, the same dam busters who had smashed German dams, approached at 14,000 feet. Each carried a single tallboy bomb. At 0941, the first bombs fell. The sky filled with black flak bursts as the gunners fired furiously. But it was too late. One tallboy struck the foredeck, piercing straight through before detonating deep inside the ship. Another hit near the aft turret. Within moments, massive explosions tore through Tirpitz's magazine. The ship rolled violently to port, smoke and flame bursting from every opening. Men scrambled across the deck, others trapped below as the monster began to turn. Within minutes, it capsized completely. Her propellers rising above the water, a grotesque tomb for over 1,000 sailors. From the mountainside, Norwegian villagers watched as the once mighty Tirpitz vanished beneath the waves, her hull burning even as it sank. For the rest of the war, the British celebrated. The beast is dead! But among the survivors, there was no joy, only silence. They had lived aboard the world's greatest fortress, and now she was gone. Not in battle, but in isolation and destruction. The wreck of Tirpitz remained visible above the water for months, her hull half buried in the shallows. In the years after the war, she was salvaged piece by piece, melted down, forgotten. Today, only fragments remain, twisted steel in the cold Arctic mud. But her story endures. The lonely giant, the ship that fought no great battle, yet shaped an entire war. She tied down fleets, changed strategies, haunted the minds of generals and kings. And though she never met her sister Bismarck again, together they became the twin ghosts of a vanished empire. Reminders that even the greatest weapons can become prisoners of their own power. Bismarck burned in glory. Tirpitz died in solitude. But both became legend.